You've likely seen in the news that the Justice Department has issued an antitrust lawsuit against Apple, stating the tech giant has illegally monopolized the smartphone market. The lawsuit accuses Apple of anti-competitive behavior when it comes to things like instant messaging, payment methods, and wearable devices. In basic terms, the Justice Department believes Apple has made it too difficult and at times outright impossible for other companies to compete against them. The lawsuit claims certain tactics by Apple have allowed the company to essentially dominate the market and, in result, monopolize the industry. Even though this is all happening now, the story actually dates back to the days of when Jobs was running the company. Back then, it's alleged that Apple executives, including Steve Jobs, wanted to make it as difficult as possible for consumers to switch from an iPhone to, say, an Android device. It did this by making certain apps exclusively are available on the App Store like iTunes and iMessage. Essentially, Apple didn't want consumers to use its high-end software apps on budget smartphones, pushing users to invest in its expensive hardware instead. Now, it would seem the ethos at Apple has been to use tactics that lock users into its ecosystem. What it does is it makes it harder for competing companies to get consumers to switch their products, which is where the accusation of monopolizing comes from. So let's move back to the current day in Apple's legal troubles. First on the docket, messaging. The Justice Department believes Apple has made cross-platform messaging harder for its users, which is essentially true. Apple purposefully restricts the functionality of standard messaging. Things like sending HD videos, longer text messages, and getting read receipts are currently only available with iMessage. If you've ever messaged someone with an Android from your iPhone and experienced the dreaded green text bubble, you know exactly what I mean. Simply put, the company was intentionally making other services worse so it could imply its own tools better. That's poor form if you ask me. Apple CEO Tim Cook was once famously asked about the possibility of making iMessage available on other platforms like the Google Play Store. The person asking the question stated its omission made it harder to communicate with his mom. Cook's response? Buy your mom an iPhone. Again, here's where the monopoly starts to shine through. If you want equal functionality and accessibility, your only option is to buy an Apple product and encourage everyone in your inner circle to have one too. It's believed Apple will broaden the functionality of standard messaging in 2024, but it's all very much too little too late, especially as far as the Justice Department is concerned. Another major concern is how Apple approaches contactless payments. Have you ever noticed when you go to pay for your coffee, you can only use Apple Pay when using your iPhone? That's because Apple doesn't want you using the likes of Google Pay when using contactless payment methods. Now, why would that be? Well, Apple charges banks a 15% transaction fee to even get onto Apple Pay. It can't do that if everyone is using an alternative digital wallet, obviously. There is another issue present when it comes to digital payments. If app developers want to take payments within their apps, they have to do it within the Apple infrastructure. Basically, that prevents companies from using third-party payment services like PayPal and Stripe or any of the other options available. The suggestion is that Apple does this so it can take a percentage of every transaction. Again, forcing out the competition. Oh, and by the way, that transaction fee is a whopping 30%. In more basic terms, if you pay $10 to subscribe to an app, Apple gets $3, leaving $7 for the developer. I get that may not seem like much, but add that up with the amount of users and rolling payments that takes a lot of cash out of the pocket of developers. Companies have countered this by not allowing users to make payments for its app in the App Store. I'll give you an example. Although you can use Netflix on your iPhone, you can't sign up for an account within the app. You do it via the Netflix website. This ensures the company gets to keep all the money from each transaction, but obviously it makes it a much worse user experience overall. The lawsuit doesn't just relate to software, by the way. It also states that Apple intentionally restricts the functionality of third-party wearables like smartwatches and earbuds. Now, why would Apple do that? Well, by making third-party wearables harder to use with an iPhone, it pushes people to use Apple's own accessories like the Apple Watch and AirPods. So, how is Apple responding to this? As you can imagine, the company isn't too thrilled about the matter. A company representative said in a statement, "We believe this lawsuit is wrong on the facts and the law, and we will vigorously defend against it." Continuing to speak on the lawsuit, the representative said, "If successful, it would hinder our ability," this is a quote, "to create the kind of technology people expect from Apple, and that it would also set a dangerous precedent empowering the government to take a heavy hand in designing people's technology." Apple denies having monopoly over the smartphone market in the United States, and its defense for being so close-gated is to ensure the security of its users' data rather than to keep them from using other popular apps and services. This lawsuit is not going to be resolved overnight. It's already established a verdict won't be reached until 2026. It's going to drag on for a long time due to how complex the matter is. Also, Apple isn't your average mom and pop shop. It's a global juggernaut with trillions of dollars behind it. That means it will have the best defense teams money can buy and will do all it can to ensure this lawsuit does not succeed. But what if the lawsuit was actually successful? Would Apple rot to its core, decompose, and disappear? Well, although the government has broken up large companies in the past, it's not going to be the case here. Instead, what the Justice Department is asking for is a court order forcing Apple to relax its gates and open its apps and platform up. Now, this would mean offering greater functionality for third-party digital wallets, improving smartwatch functionality, and hey, you may even get to say goodbye to those green message bubbles which seem to keep many people awake at night. So, what should we make of all of this? Look, it's tricky. Apple, no doubt, has some underhanded tactics to ensure it squeezes as much money out of its products as possible. Full disclosure, I use plenty of Apple products, and a big part of the reason for that is how well the different products work together. But part of me can't help but feel like it would be nice to have that same interoperability with all devices across the board, regardless of brand. And hey, I might even try something from Samsung. Reducing the quality of third-party software and hardware to give more power to its users isn't a great look, nor is it making it impossible for developers to use other systems to receive payments or create alternative digital wallets. That said, it's hard to say how any of this will hold up in court, with Apple likely to challenge the assertion that they have monopoly power and point out that their walled garden comes with enhanced security. Like I said, it's going to be very tricky. Again, there's no quick fix here. Things will be drawn out, get more complicated, and right now we can't say what the outcome will be. What you can be sure of is that I will keep you updated as and when the story develops. I'd love to see what you make of all of this. What side do you take? You can let me know in the comments. I always love hearing your opinions. While you're at it, don't forget to subscribe, hit the bell icon, and obviously leave a comment. See you in my next video. Bye-bye.